not just me that wants to talk to you. We've got some questions gathered from some of our Rock Sound cover stars.
Hey Joe, it's Danny Farinale from The Warning, and we were wondering.
We watched these girls, and they were like, wow, they were amazing. Absolutely incredible.
From Chris Daughtry, obviously from the band Daughtry. What are some of the things you've had to do or currently do to protect your mindset and your mental health?
Well, not listening to him sing our version of Photograph for a start, because he absolutely killed it. All the experience that we've had, the ups and downs, that we've had some tragedies in this band, but we've had way more good times.
Say it's best to never meet your heroes. Have you ever met one of yours and wish you hadn't?
Oh no, said there's somebody upstairs wants to say hello. And I just thought it's probably a cleaning lady who's a fan or something, And I go up there and there's Bowie sat on his snooker table. I'm like, you could have given me a minute's warning,
Hey guys, James Wilson-Taylor here for Rock Sound. Now it's a very exciting time for Def Leppard, a brand new live album, some amazing collaborations recently as well. I'm delighted to say that Mr. Joe Elliott joins me on the line right now. How you doing, Joe?
I'm grand, thank you. Top of the morning. It's great. No, everything's good. We finished the tour about literally a month ago.
Yeah.
So it's just been chill time, but preparing for bigger things. So yeah, it's all good.
Always exciting, man. Always exciting stuff going on in your world. Well, it's not just me that wants to talk to you. We've got some questions gathered from some of our Rock Sound cover stars. Some of these you will have dealt with in the past. Some of these are just longtime fans of yours, people who've covered your stuff. Really, really exciting mix in here. I want to begin with a band I know you're a fan of and are very, very familiar with. This is a question from The Warning.
Hey Joe, it's Danny Farinale from The Warning, and we were wondering, what is the process you guys go through to pick your opening bands for your shows?
Is it just ones you're really, really excited about, or is there something you particularly look for when you've got a support act for a big Def Leppard tour?
It's a really tricky one, this, because half the time that we kind of put a band forward, they're either not available, don't want to do it, or they aren't appropriate, if you like, So in fairness, when we're going out on these tours, a lot of the stuff that gets put forward is, we like to call them the grown-ups, right? Which is basically promoters, booking agents. It's not as romantic as us sitting around smoking a doobie and going, hey man, let's take the struts out, because quite honestly, without the doobie, we've said that like many times, and it's just never worked out. We wanted to take them out in 2018 when we first did some shows with Journey, and they weren't available. And pretty much every time we've talked since, it's like, I remember, I think maybe a year ago, Luke said, hey, is there any chance? We said, yeah, if you'd have come 6 weeks ago, we wouldn't have already have got it in place, but it was too late, So I insisted that we took the Sensational Alex Harvey band on the 2 shows that we did for the Year album, because I'd seen them the year before, and I thought they were just amazing. Obviously, Alex is not there anymore, but I just thought it was great to hear the actual original band playing together. So I really made a push to get them on, and it was us, Cheap Trick and Saab, and that worked out great. For example, when The Warning opened for us in Mexico, I think we didn't know they were going to be on the bill, because we just get over there, and when it's that far away, you don't really get, you're booked to play. And if it's like Rock in Rio, you just go with it because they've already picked everybody they want. You don't have any choice because it's a festival. You're just like playing download. We don't get involved with who else is playing download. If we're playing, if we're booked to play that particular year, and it's the same over there. But we watched these girls, and they were like, wow, they were amazing. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
so
they really are.
Please give me a copy of your album. I want to play it on my radio show.
Absolutely, they are phenomenal. It's funny you say though that not getting involved in download, because you've reminded me. I had a very interesting story with your old friend Mr. Justin Hawkins from The Darkness, who he says you kind of almost accredited for them coming back that first time a little bit. I think they've been talking about it. They were obviously planning on doing the reunion, but I believe it was when you were headlining download. You said something to the effect of, "I'd really love The Darkness to be opening up for us on this," And
yeah,
he said that instigated it.
I've no doubt that somebody will say absolutely not true because you told such and such and we ended up on the bill. So yeah, I mean, I'll take the credit. But a lot of the time I don't dine out on it. You know what I mean? It's like I will always push. I mean, listen, I'm just a byproduct of what I saw happen in the past. And one of the greatest people in the industry that championed other artists was Elton John. Elton John actually spent his entire career telling everybody how brilliant such and such a band is, whether it be Leon Russell, whether it be us in 1983 when he came across us, and Spandau for that, for the pop thing, and Duran Duran for the pop thing. But he was never afraid to like when he did his last gig at Glastonbury, he brought guests up because he wanted to really push their careers. And I always thought, it never really harmed him to be able to say, you should really listen to this band. Like I've been pushing for the Struts for a decade. I remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, how I really pushed for Terrorvision because I thought they were
Great band.
just a great band, and I couldn't believe why they didn't have a record deal, which eventually they did get one, which I'm not taking any credit for. But the fact is that I was pushing people behind the scenes, under the table, and in interviews that you really should watch this band because they're pretty incredible. So yeah, it happens, but it doesn't always have traction because you've got to understand as well sometimes that when somebody like me says something to a grown-up, they go, yeah, what do you know about it? So it's just all down to opinion, really.
Absolutely. But good to express those opinions. Good to get those new names out there. Speaking of kind of bands a little earlier in their career, I want to go to our next question. This is from Shane from the band Those Damn Crows. And he says, do you have any pre-stage rituals just before going on? And has that changed at all over the years? Is it the same setup from you from back in the day, or has it kind of changed a little bit?
It's exactly the same as it has been forever. We just do it slightly better. That's all. What we do before we go on is we warm up. Back in the days when, say, Robert Plant came to see us in Chicago, and he went, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was in the shower, as he says, making a hell of a hullabaloo. I was just clearing my throat and just making sure I could hit the high notes and stuff like that. These days, we work with a vocal coach, albeit on tape, because, we work with him, and then he gave us what was at the day a cassette, which we then burnt to CD, which we now have as an MP3 on the phone. We've just said time for a warm up, and everybody in the dressing room, because we share a dressing room. We're a proper band. We all in the same room getting ready. So we just put the thing on, and the four of us, poor old Rick just has to sit there listening to it. But the four of us, we warm up, and we do that pretty much on and off from about 2 hours before we go on. So we're not sat there like studying it. It's just, you'd be going through your drawers, deciding what to wear, and you're just going da, 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 for, on and off. And then you go off and, tease your hair or whatever you do. That's pretty much our ritual. We don't like burn virgins and, light candles on the back of roadies and stuff like that. We're just prepping for the show. That's all we do. We as much as we're having the best laugh ever, we do take it seriously. The way a comedian has to make everybody laugh, but he takes his job deadly serious. We want to go out there and maintain what people think. In other words, if they think we're a good band, then we want them to remain thinking that way. And if they're not sure, we want to convince them, and convert them, if you like, and in this day and age, you really are on your toes because you know as well as I do that everybody's filming everything. So if you faceplant, you're a good, even the biggest Def Leppard fan in the world is going to put it up on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's just what they do. It's a weird thing, really. But you sing off key, you play bad notes and all that kind of stuff. People are going to complain and moan and go, "Ooh, listen to that," or something weird happens like just did with Jane's Addiction. It's going to be all over everything, So that keeps you on your toes. So the biggest thing for us really is just maintaining the standard. So there's a lot of joshing about, like, are you really going to wear that? But it's all in fun, So that's kind of the ritual, is just to keep our spirits high, mostly through humor, and just warming up the voices. And, of course, both Phil and Viv will be sat in a chair doing their vocal exercises at the same time as they're going widdly, widdly, widdly on the guitars, keep their fingers active. So, yeah, that's it. It's all about getting up on stage and doing the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that sense of humor is so important. It leads really nicely on to our next question, actually, which I thought was a really interesting take on this. This is from Chris Daughtry, obviously from the band Daughtry. And he said, what are some of the things you've had to do or currently do to protect your mindset and your mental health? I mean, this rock and roll game, but also this fame game can obviously kind of mess with people a little bit. You guys are still together, still going strong after all these years. What kind of things do you attribute to that, I guess?
Well, not listening to him sing our version of Photograph for a start, because he absolutely killed it.
Talented boy, very talented man.
Yeah, indeed he is. Well, I just think, in fairness, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I've never been one. You see, coming from parents who came from parents who survived World War II, and my parents lived through World War II. They kind of, and being probably from up north, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the same in Devon and it's the same in Aberdeen, but coming from that era where they had ration books and all this kind of stuff, you'd you just get on with it, and it's driven into you as a kid. Like you scrape your knee in the playground, get up and get on with it. We're really fortunate being the generation that we are, that all the experience that we've had, the ups and downs, that we've had some tragedies in this band, but we've had way more good times. And I think that that's always something that we are aware of and make note of whenever we make any kind of decisions. And that's pretty much, unless it was like Rick's accident or Steve dying, and even Vivian's continuous cancer treatment, you just, all right, well, it is what it is until it isn't. And so it's a really hard question to answer because we've never been a band that needs to sit down and have these focus meetings or anything like that. I mean, I don't know if anybody ever does. We just come from a background where parents, aunties, uncles would just say, oh, get up and get on with it, and we kind of live that way.
Fair enough. Hey, it's got you this far, man. It's got you this far.
I don't think anything's going to change now,
That's
so.
that's fair. That's fair at this point. Absolutely. This next question's from one of my favorites, Matt Tuck from Bullet for My Valentine. So he wants to know, they say it's best to never meet your heroes. Have you ever met one of yours and wish you hadn't? And if so, why? Any
really good question, actually. And disappointingly, I would imagine, which is weird. No, I've never met one that I didn't like. I've never met one that let me down. I have met people in the industry that I've thought were complete dickheads, but they weren't heroes of mine, so I didn't really care. But when it comes to heroes, the three main ones for me would have been Ian Hunter, Mick Ronson, and David Bowie. And I met or worked with all three of them, and had just the greatest time. I don't know what it is. Maybe because I didn't expect too much, so they didn't let me down. It's not that I went in there going, they're going to be really horrible people. So when they weren't, it might, whoa, that was good. I just went in there hoping they would be like normal, and they were. I mean, even Bowie, as much as this alien being kind of thing, he was actually quite laddish when I met him. Well, the first time I ever met him was here we go, name dropping. I was at Bono's place.
Oh, weren't we all? Weren't we all just hanging at Bono's?
He was having a barbecue, and we just got talking about this, that, and the other. Actually, first off, Bono said, there's somebody upstairs who wants to say hello. And I just thought it's probably a cleaning lady who's a fan or something, And I go up there, and there's Bowie sat on his snooker table. I'm like, you could have given me a fucking minute's warning, And anyway, so we just chatted about this, that, and the other. And then within about an hour, we realized that the Edge wasn't at this thing because it was his birthday and he was having dinner with his missus in Dunleary. He goes, let's go and sing happy birthday to the Edge. So me, Bono, Bowie, and Bono's driver crammed into a Mini and drove to this restaurant, ran up the steps, ran in. All the, can you imagine everybody at the tables? Forget me, they wouldn't even know who I was. But they see Bono and Bowie and this stranger singing happy birthday to this guy sat at this table, and then Bowie going tee hee hee and running back into the car, and then back to Bono's house, and then Coco comes out and she accuses me of kidnapping David. I mean, he was like, other way round, actually, dear, other way round.
Final question for you, again, from someone I know that you've toured with before, and someone I'm sure you greatly admire, Mr. Wolfgang Van Halen. So Wolf says this, when we had the pleasure of opening for you, I was so impressed by how strong your vocals still were. There are many singers out there who lose the power, quality, and overall ability of their singing voice over the length of a long career. How have you managed to continue keeping your voice going just as strong over the course of your 40-plus year career? Well, I guess we were just saying earlier about those warm-ups before the show. Yeah. But I guess beyond that, is there other stuff you kind of do to just make sure it's all ticking along nicely?
Yeah, a lovely guy as well, Wolfgang. Great. And what a player. They opened for us on the 3 British shows, and the last one was this insanely rainy show in Glasgow. It was just awful. It was July, and it was like January. It's just rotten. But we had a good old chat in the tent, actually. We couldn't have done it outside. Yeah, I mean, the truth is that the older you get, the more difficult it does get. I'm in the singers union, so I'm on board with every singer that goes, "Yep, been there, done that." You doesn't matter how brilliant you are, you're going to have a bad day because singing is not carpentry. It's not you can't just pick up a tool and have COVID and make a beautiful cabinet, because you can still work that kind of work if you're sick. You can't sing or barely talk even if you're sick. So sometimes you get sick and it affects your voice. But as long as you're not sick, there isn't an excuse depending on how much you want it. And that's what the difference is. A lot of singers are born with an amazing voice, so they don't believe they need to bother to try. And I understand that, because if I'd have been born with a great voice, I don't think I would have tried as hard either. But the fact that I was not, and I had to develop one, just because I wanted it, I was prepared to do the work, you know. And Vivian was the guy that brought Roger Love on board. Roger Love's this LA-based vocal coach that's worked with everybody from Beach Boys to Iggy Pop to, you know, I mean, he's done, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of singer you are. He doesn't teach you to sing. He teaches you not to lose your voice. That's the key. So you learn to sing a certain way where you protect your voice in certain environments. I've heard, you know, some of the greatest singers in the world, their voices struggle because of the scheduling. And when we used to do 6 shows a week and people would say, you can't sing anymore, they were probably right. I couldn't sing at the time was the correct answer. But doing 6 shows in 7 days when you're playing 2 hours a night in those registers that I sing in, it was just getting to the point where I said, I can't do this. And so I had one of my few hissy fits and said, next tour, this is not happening. I'm not doing any more than 2 in a row. And then eventually we just through scheduling, it got to, I think we accidentally did this like little run of 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 off. And by the end of it, I said, I'll never sing this well again unless we keep this schedule. And we just decided that's how we're going to do it. So we don't do as many gigs as you know, we don't do 200 shows a year. There's no need. We just did 25 over 3 months, and it suited me down to the ground. I've got to be honest, as a singer, because, you know, I could rest up. And you have to remember as well, it's not just me in Def Leppard. We sing. Everybody except Rick sings. He's got enough to be dealing with his kit. So, you know, everybody's voices, especially the backing vocals, most of the time I actually, they do the high harmony stuff, but some of the times I do the high harmony because I can hit the highest notes. So I actually have to take the harmony in certain parts of the song. And like they say, the bridging animal, the high harmony, which is Phil on record, is me. Because on record, you can just keep dropping until you get it right. Live, it just made more sense to swap. So I took the high one, he took the low one, and we do that quite a bit. We do it on Bring on the Heartbreak. I take the high harmony. So, but most of the time, the guys are doing it. So they need rest as well, because we sing a lot. Listen to a Def Leppard record if you've never heard one, and listen to how much vocalization there is as to, you know, there's actually more singing than guitars, because that's the way that we structured stuff, you know. So looking after my voice is, a lot of it is just common sense. At 65 years old, for the last 3, since we came back after COVID, you know, we just made a point of going, we can sustain this for 10 years if we don't kill ourselves. So when, you know, as we saw earlier on this tour, a couple of people saying like, oh, you know, Def Leppard, they obviously use all these samples. And I think it's Chris Holmes from Wasp and some dude from Testament. You know, it's like, actually, mates, no, we don't. We actually practice. And maybe the 3 guys that you think are miming all the backing vocals, maybe they're actually quite good at their jobs.
It's a very nice compliment. It sounds so good, it might be.
Like I said, we take it as a compliment. You know, I mean, I'm commenting on it now, but I'm not bitter about it. I mean, like I said, they can think what they want because that's what they're used to. 99% of bands, maybe that's what they do. I don't know. I don't judge bands on whether they use samples or not. I just judge them on whether I like them. Yeah, if I go see a band live, I could be the first to go, yep, that's definitely not live. You know, there's a keyboard player going or whatever, and he's got the backing vocals there. But not us.
Yeah,
It's
we
all,
love the
it's all real.
authenticity, man. We love the
It'll be
authenticity.
real until it's terrible, and then we'll stop.
That's a good way of looking at it, man. Real until it's terrible. I like that. Well, hopefully that's not going to be for a long time, dude. Joe, it's an absolute pleasure to chat to you, man. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, great, best of luck with the live album and all that stuff. Loved hearing you with the
Yeah,
Pomorello
happy it's
chat and
coming out in
posting
every
on stuff.
format now because Record Store Day is very exciting, but then you get all your mates going, "Is it coming out on CD?"
It's out
One
in the
day,
world. It's out in the
finally.
world.